Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. This is a follow-up video to the one I did recently where I showed how you could synchronize your Moog DFAM sequencer to the Octatrack without sacrificing an audio track or buying an extra MIDI to CB converter. And how I did that was with the Norddrum, the Clavia Norddrum. This is a drum synthesizer which provides a click, and it gets its information when to play the click, so it's sequenced by MIDI from the Octatrack. That actually freed up an audio track on the Octatrack, because for the set that I'm currently working on, I want to keep things simple, and I would just want to use those two machines. So, well, I got plenty of amazing feedback from a guy called LessTalkMoreDisco. You can find his Instagram handle in the description below, and he pointed out that it would be nice to show the actual patch on the Norddrum. So I think it's really a good idea. So all of you guys, if you plan to use this kind of setup, you can create your own click tone, and you get an idea of what the DFAM reacts to very well. Also, I think it would be a nice addition to just have. So in this video I'm going to show you the actual patch on the Norddrum, so you can create similar click tones if you want to use a setup like this. So you get an idea on the sound that the DFAM takes very well to make the sequencer move consistently. Then I'm going to show you what how the sequencing side on the Octatrack looks like, and what happens when you provide uneven and polyrhythmic stuff to the DFAM, which is really fun. It's good. It gets really interesting. So as I've been testing a lot of stuff with the DFAM and its so let's call them acid capabilities, I've of course discovered a couple of things that it can do very well, that it actually does amazingly well, and of course a couple of things that because of the design of the DFAM it can't do as well. But I think it gives everything a very unique way of it's a very unique sounding acid machine if you use it as one. And yeah, so special thanks goes out to LessTalkMoreDisco, who I met on Instagram. I have his handle in the notes in the description below. Give him a shout out, follow him, of course follow this channel. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and let me know how you like it, what you don't like, how I can improve what I'm doing well. Just drop me a line, I'll be happy to answer any questions and maybe make more videos. Yeah, so I'll move the camera over the machines and show you everything I just talked about. I hope you enjoy this, and again, let me know how you like it. Alright, here we are now, and what you can hear is the actual click tone on the Norddrum. So that's the actual patch. Sounds a bit like a tom, like an 808 tom. A little click at the beginning, but that's pretty much it. So nothing really nothing extraordinary. So just a simple patch, and I have the Norddrum on channel 1, MIDI channel 1 on the Octatrack, and currently going into input A, so we have a signal that I can show you. But for this demonstration, yeah, I have the so the Norddrum. So here we are now, and what you can hear already is the actual patch coming from the Norddrum. just like a simple tom, nothing special really. Yeah, that's enough for the DFAM to work with. So I have the Norddrum, as I said, on MIDI channel 1, and currently we're just on steps 1 and 9. Can add more tricks. So as you see, it's reacting, and let me stop this real quick, and now we plug in the DFAM. And what you heard already was a little fast stepping because of the connecting. And yeah, the Norddrum is now sending its audio to the advanced clock. Remember to have the Moog DFAM on run, otherwise it will not start. I'll show you this. So you see some stuff is happening here. You see some tricks, and we're not hearing anything. So let's hit run, and there we have it. And what you might notice is that the sequencer on the DFAM is not going through in a even and steady way. So every time we hit a trick now, it moves one step forward. So very, very simple, but also very powerful, because now we can just add a few tricks and create a rhythm on the DFAM. Very simple, but where it gets interesting is that you might notice that a change of rhythm and how things go. So where it gets interesting now is when you watch as the steps progress, but also watch as the DFAM sequencer cycle through. So if you have, right now we have a very steady, even rhythm, and so this might be not very apparent at the moment, but once we engage the sequencer pitch modulation, the stuff that I want to show you gets apparent. So let me just switch this on. So now we are having even tricks here, 6, but the sequencer has 8 steps, so it runs through 6 steps, and then although the Octatrack restarted its pattern, the DFAM didn't cycle or didn't go through all steps, so there's always a bit of a leftover, which then gets moved to the beginning and so forth. So unless we have something that is dividable, or yeah, something that is similar to multiples of 4 or 2, we get a steady rhythm or a steady melody. So now it sounds like a real loop. Quite techno already. get really, really interesting, and I'm not sure how I can describe this in the most accurate, technically termed way. But I'm liking what I'm hearing, so let's reduce a couple more. Yeah, I like that. So, okay, one thing that got mentioned is that I should add a beat for a reference, so let's get over to the audio part, and there I have just a kick drum and a hi-hat. Now let's do it like this. Once you have even numbers on the tricks, the DFAM cycled through in an even way. But if we just add one note, things start to become unstable. But still very interesting, and I bet a lot of people will dance to this stuff already. Okay, so of course it's very noticeable with the pitch modulation, but this can also work very well when you use say the velocity to also control the filter amount. So let's do this. Turn this down a bit. Very nice, already a lot of movement, and you can twist it and on the fly have a so as you notice, you can only move the sequencer forward. You cannot skip any notes unless you, of course, turn the volume down all the way. So, but it's still being recognized and it somewhat counts, but of course you will not have any output on those tricks. So things of course get a lot more interesting once you add the pitch envelope, or the pitch, the sequencer pitch modulation, sorry. shall we? So yeah, that's the actual. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. And let's disengage this for a second. So things get really interesting when you also turn on polyrhythms on the Octatrack. So polyrhythms basically means you have multiple kinds of rhythms in the same song. So for example, the kick drum would be on every 4th 16th note, and one pattern would have, or one bar would consist of 16 steps, while another track might only consist of less or more steps. So the way you turn this on the Octatrack is you go to function pattern, to the pattern settings, and then in the top row you have global pattern settings, and there you find scale mode. Usually it's set to normal, so every track on the Octatrack has the same length. But if you turn on per track, you can decide for each individual track how many steps it will have. So if we go to function page, you see it's currently, so that the MIDI track on channel 1. So you can see we have all 16 tracks playing, and yeah, we can just reduce this to 7, and I'll program real quick a more simpler patch on the DFAM so you know what happens. And if you turn on the individual scale per track, make sure that you have master set to something higher. So internally the Octatrack keeps counting, but at a certain point it begins at 0, and here you can set this number. So after 512 steps it'll repeat. So if you have an uneven number, so if you divide 512 by 7, you get a number which is probably I don't know, something uneven. So the pattern will not play, even if it has step, will not fully play, it will somewhat break, and everything gets set back to 0 basically. So hope that makes sense. Okay, so on the MIDI, as you now see, I have only lit up to 7 steps, and all the other ones are no longer available. So let's do something like this. So not only is the Octatrack now providing an uneven number to the sequencer, the Octatrack doesn't even use all its 16 steps, so this is where things get a bit complicated, but the result is really interesting. So let's engage the sequential pitch modulation. Really fun already. So thing that you notice a lot in old acid tunes is that they make use of this kind of polyrhythmic stuff, which the old TB303s or any 303 that is designed after the original can do. So you can just have an uneven number of steps, and this gets, because it's also a shorter rhythm, very hypnotic, and there's a certain feel to it. This is really hard to describe. So let's have the velocity also control the filter modulation. One thing I want to show you too is the tempo range that is available. I think that's quite interesting because at some point the attack of each click, they move too close together for the DFAM to recognize. So if you don't use this, the DFAM will run in free mode, and you can move into audio range. But with the clock coming in, this doesn't work as well as I wish to. But on the other hand, the tempo range that you get is more than sufficient. So let's have a listen. I'm gonna make this a bit shorter. So let's disengage this one. So still very even. Let's add 10 more. Maybe I should make this 16 steps again and have all steps. Okay. There you heard the first step that didn't get through, and as you see, it's a bit uneven stumbling. So what I get with almost 200 beats per minute, 180 is still very consistent, so I think here are some glitches, so, but again, if you stay in the 130s, even 160 is fine. So if you want to make some drum bass jungle stuff with a nice acid line coming from the DFAM or some faster technos, maybe some hardcore techno, I don't know. Well, you can do this. But let's get back to comforting 128. And let's have 5. I like 5. Okay, so while trying out a few things, I also noticed, of course, a couple limitations that you get on the DFAM. But I think they're related to its design. But yeah, it's just something you have to know. So I'm creating an asset set right now, and one of the things that the old 303s and all the clones can do very well is do slides. So you can't really do slides. There is no slide function on the DFAM to have the pitch go down or up into whatever step you're having. So you can't have slides, and because the sequencer is not stepped, those encoders are not stepped, you're never really knowing what notes you're playing. So this is all microtonal, and which is cool. This gives everything a really nice feeling, but you just have to consider it. So playing melodies and so getting a nice melody is not really related to notes that you know that you want to play, but rather just random intervals that sound nice together without being fixed to a certain scale or to perfect pitches. So another thing that I really like, and that's also part of the design of the DFAM, is of course the second oscillator, and currently both are sending or receiving pitch values from the sequencer. So this is something that 303 can't do, and but it sounds very musical, very techno. Well, already have a techno track there. So yeah, you can get a bit of a twist of 303 or acid, and so yeah. So now the pitch is changing the VCF decay length depending on the pitch. So higher notes have a longer VCF, than lower notes. Okay, another thing that you can do with the velocity knobs is create accents. So on the original 303s you could have individual steps with higher volume, and you can globally change the volume per accent step. So with this you can actually have everything very individual. And as you noticed, let's listen to this step. And you can actually just bring in individual notes, which is fun. And the higher the velocity, the more gain you get. Of course, that makes perfect sense, but this is something you can use when you engage a distortion pedal or any distortion that you want to use, because the sound of the DFAM becomes like those barking acid sounds. So, well, let me just show you. I don't know about you, but I could listen to stuff like this for hours. So, yeah, that's actually the whole magic. So now you know how you can use any sound producing device which takes MIDI and can therefore be sequenced by something like the Octatrack. Of course, you don't have to use the Octatrack, but this is maybe a nice way to use MIDI to sequence the DFAM, because not everybody has a lot of CV stuff, maybe as I am. I'm just currently looking into all the modular stuff just a little bit, and thought that a semi-modular device would be very fun. Of course, I heard a lot of good things about the DFAM itself, so this was kind of the intention behind it. But yeah, if you don't have any other CV gear and you want to clock your DFAM to something, there you have a solution. This is also very nice if you want to sample the DFAM and need a constant clock, and if you don't want to buy a MIDI to CV converter, and because you can just use any device like this. It's an actual virtual analog drum synthesizer, but it's now functioning as my MIDI to CV unit. So, hope that helped, hope you enjoy this little show, and yeah, let me know what you think. Drop me a couple of comments if you like, share this video, subscribe, and until then, until next time, that's what I want to say.